So is the time of reckoning at hand for arguably 40k's strongest faction? Let's talk about a release list of points changes that may be bringing the bugs back into line. Hello and welcome back to Warsbets Tactics, where today we're talking some leaks and rumours from the new chapter approved, where if accurate it looks like the balance hammer is going to be swinging fairly hard against some of the Tyranids' top units. Let's talk briefly about the leak, when it's going to come out and the source, and then go through all the rumoured points changes one by one and talk about what it might mean for the army as a whole and the units affected. So first up, currently in 40k, Tyranids are pretty much the strongest army, and it's not really particularly close. Most of the time in 40k's history there's usually at least a few factions vying for the top spot, but due to the Tyranid Codex being monstrously powerful, and then at the same time things like Tau, Harlequins and Custodes all getting some fairly sizable nerfs, it's given the Tyranids a new golden age and some massive dominance in win rates at tournaments. Generally the army is strong overall, some things certainly a lot more so than others, but just for the most part a lot of the rules are very strong for buffing the entire army, and several datasheets are fairly heavily undercosted. Generally for game balance it would be good to have them reined in a little, just to make sure that they're not head and shoulders above most of the other strong factions in 40k. The points changes are likely to be done alongside chapter approved, which is coming out fairly soon. My guess is that it will drop at some point in July, as that will be 6 months since the last one came out, and they did say they were going to have a 6-monthly release cycle for them. The points changes will be done for free and done via a digital update, which is kind of handy. It actually allows them to react to how the armies are doing at the moment, rather than having to guess how the meta will be 6 months in the line when they send the book out to the printer. That brings us to this set of leaked points changes, which was posted to the competitive 40k Reddit page. Supposedly the source was from a Tyranids Discord, from someone who also had access to the Nids Codex before most of it was leaked to the internet. But of course when you are dealing with purely text-based leaks, there isn't really any real backup. It could all be completely made up. And to be honest, as Games Workshop are going to be doing the release of the new points digitally, there's always the chance of them changing things before they actually come out. On the whole though, I think the changes look believable and fairly reasonable. I certainly wouldn't be surprised at all if Games Workshop do something similar to this, even if things are changed before the points update comes out. So here we have the list of changes in full then. First up we have +5 points to both the Warriors and the Raveners. Certainly both really solid datasheets. The Warriors have been tearing it up with the dual bone swords and the Death Spitters, really quite a nice battle line for the faction, and can either be extra durable with Leviathan and their permanent transhuman for Synapse creatures, or maybe moving very quickly with Hive Fleet Kraken. The Raveners are kind of similar to the Warriors, but they trade out troops and Synapse for being just a bit mightier with 4 wounds, fighting in combat a touch harder, and also being significantly faster. I think I've got slightly mixed feelings to the points changes to those. I think 5 points is a fairly hefty nerf, but I'd say they're probably still just about on the right side of usable. They're just not quite as much of a source of strength for the Tyranid Codex as they were before. The Tyranid Warrior datasheet is a bit of a weird one. They've got a whole load of different gear, but besides the heavy weapons everything costs the same, which is kind of weird as just a few choices seem much better than the others. I can't see many people wanting to take different combat weapon choices besides those dual bone swords. They're just really good and general purpose. Next up we have the single meatiest rumoured change, which is a whopping +50 points to the Maliceptor, which will take it all the way to 220. Out of any of the changes, I feel like this one is the single harshest nerf. I don't really think it's necessary, to be honest. Maliceptors, when the Codex dropped, were perhaps one of the single strongest units in the Codex, able to quite reliably pump out something like 12 to 15 mortal wounds with a Neurothrope following them up. But since then, the Tyranid Codex FAQ has restricted their mortal wounds by quite a lot, meaning that their psychic action counts as a cast, and also forbidding them from using the extra psychic power stratagem, capping their mortal wounds to a bit more of a reasonable level. I still think they're very solid indeed, but following those nerfs I think I would have expected more, something 10 to 20 points rather than a massive 50. Next up, in what is probably the other harshest nerf I think, is a +10 points on the Pyrovores. Previously 30, this would take them to 40, and again I do feel that this one's a bit on the steep side. Don't get me wrong, they're very good at the moment, being able to choose between Flames that kill infantry or elites, are solidly tough and not even terrible in melee. People certainly have been running them, sometimes spamming them. Still though, +10 points on a 30-point unit is an enormous points increase, an extra 30% onto the cost, and it really makes them a lot less tempting both in damage and defense. It still could be a scary fireball burning bomb, I guess, if they jump out of a Tyrannocyte, but I think this would make them look a lot more mediocre compared with the other choices in the Codex. On the flip side, if these do turn out to be true, then the Harpy will be getting away quite likely, I think. Being a flyer with great durability, great bombs, great maneuverability, and great firepower, it basically is one of the single most undercosted datasheets in 40k at the moment, and just increasing 10 points to 170 isn't really that big a deal, even when paired with the other rumoured change of plus 5 points to heavy venom cannons, which if you take it with the anti-tank guns would take it up to 190. Even at that cost, I still think it seems really quite strong. You'd still get lots of people running too, I think, though I can't dispute it's a decent step in the right direction. Next we come to the Hive Tyrants, both versions going up 20 points to 180 base for the walking one and 210 for the Flyrant. The Hive Tyrants with their role are perhaps one of the most auto-include units in the Tyranid Codex with what they can do, either being a bastion of mid-board strength with some decent firepower, or a flying nightmare that can blend a squad and then jump back to safety with Overrun. 20 points won't stop them being played, and they'll still be very good for the cost, though I guess it might allow other HQs a chance to shine through a little bit more. Maybe at least having a little bit of comparison with things like the Trigon Prime or Broodlords perhaps. Finally, and again if this is accurate, heavy venom cannons will be getting an extra 5 points on all platforms, so slightly more expensive on the Hive Tyrants if you choose to take them there, but also affecting other things like Carnifexes. Again, this doesn't really seem like the end of the world for Tyranids. 3 effectively glass cannon shots with a flat damage of 4 is amazing anti-tank firepower. Obviously, again, this will take the edge off and maybe make you weigh them up against the Stranglethorn cannon somewhat, but if you want solid anti-tank, I still think they'll be pretty efficient. Of course, this is very much all in the area of rumours at the moment, but taken overall, they seem like okay changes. I feel that maybe the Maliceptor one is the harshest, probably doesn't need to be over 200 points at the moment, I think, and the Pyrovore one just seems a little bit punitive. I think maybe 35 points might be the way to go for first. In general though, I think these points changes are affecting all the units that need it most. If Games Workshop did come out with exactly this, or something very like it, I think that would be a decent step to rebalancing NIDs, and stopping them feel quite so oppressive in any sort of optimised list. So anyway, let me know what you think of the alleged leak then. Would this be enough to allow your army to catch up with the scary bugs, or will the Harpies and Hive Tyrants laugh off the minor points changes and still demolish the competition anyway? If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly be covering the chapter approved points changes when we get them. Looking forward to going over the news for the Tyranids and everyone else. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page, and it is what allows me to keep on making so many videos quite so often. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early each week, regular votes to see what sort of things come next for the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, an enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.